We are halfway through the eclipse season, and this week brings its own intense experiences, deep insights, and revelations as Mercury conjoins the Sun, the moment we astrologers call Cazimi, right next to the South Node in a square to the Lord of the underworld, Pluto. Prepare to shed some more layers, rethink your ideals, and embrace new truths. Let's take a closer look and break this transit down for all 12 signs. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive client work. I also create content for you guys, and I really appreciate all of the support I receive. So if you like this channel, please like or comment. Don't forget to subscribe and press the notification bell. You also have the option to thank me by buying me a coffee if you feel like you really appreciate my work. Before we dive in, if you'd like to work with me, if you ever feel like life is being confusing or you need extra guidance, you can book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com. You can also become a subscriber and get monthly readings, either in written form or in face-to-face form. There's a lot of options for everyone. And on my website, you can also check out my magical candle and oil store. For example, sunlight in a jar with a golden foil, smelling very citrusy, and highlighting the strong sun in Leo is perfect for the fall times when the energy starts to quiet down and we go within a lot. It's good to get like this boost of confidence once in a while. And of course, you know, its sister moon in Cancer is perfect for heightened emotions and anxious minds. As a Virgo with 3 planets in Virgo, I've been lighting this guy up all the time. The one I have in the background is actually Sunlight in a Jar from 2022. Those have been sold out, but I have created another batch this year. Now that that is out of the way, let's talk about this week, right? Halfway through the eclipse season, we have a few things happening this week in close kind of succession. First of all, on Wednesday, October 18th, the Sun conjoins South Node. Right after that, on Thursday, October 19th, Mercury conjoins South Node. Then we get Mercury Cazimi on Friday, October 20th at 26 degrees 34 minutes Libra. So this energy is actually the strongest. Mercury Cazimi is very lovely for communication, getting in touch with people, networking, sending emails, writing, editing, anything like that. So whatever you need to do, this energy is the strongest between 4 p.m. October 19th, Thursday, and 11 a.m. October 20th, Friday. So schedule some of your calls and important conversations for then. And then Mercury Cazimi pretty much squares Pluto immediately on Friday into Saturday between October 20th and 21st. So this video is, we're going to talk about the energy between October 18th and October 21st as these transits unravel, right? First of all, we are looking back at the early October. In early October, October 8th specifically, but you can give it between October 4th, 11th, Mars conjoined South Node and then squared Pluto. Share your experiences in the comments below. For me, it was dramatic. There was a conflict, a very kind of challenging interaction that I dealt with at that point, and then that was like the inciting incident for the rest of October in many ways. So take a look back. I feel like this week could bring us some answers and positive resolutions, but you know, I try to always be hopeful and optimistic, so that's how I'd like to believe this week will shape out. You would have been already feeling this very strongly, but you will feel this transit particularly strongly if you have planets between 23-29 degrees cardinal signs, and that is Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn. These signs are feeling this energy the strongest. They're doing the most shedding, they're doing the most releasing, while the rest of the signs are experiencing similar energies, just perhaps maybe they're a bit more subdued. So let's take these let's kind of talk about them and see what kind of themes can be coming up for you this week. First of all, Mercury conjoining the Sun on Friday, October 20th is the time of empowered thinking. If you have been struggling, if you've had a lot of questions come up, a lot of emotions come up, and not having any clear ideas on how to deal with these thoughts or questions, Mercury Cazimi is the time when you may get the answers. It's also a lovely period to journal. Just sit down and write down your thoughts. You never know, something beautiful might come out of it. It's a great opportunity to meditate. Just sit there and not force any answers, but try to free your mind and try to let things go. So that to me is this like underlying powerful intellect, quicker thinking. It's Libra. We're still in Libra territory. Both the Sun and Mercury are in Libra. So most of October has been centered around relationships, right? I did a poll on my Instagram the other day asking people how the eclipse went for them. And there's been so much of like people connecting with their partners, or people asking questions about relationships, friendships transforming, realizing that certain dynamics are outdated in ourselves and in other people. And we're definitely continuing on that this week. So, you know, like the South Node piece of it feels like past karma. It feels like deeper lessons that have their roots and origins in your childhood, that have some kind of, you know, they bring up the past and they show you the true kind of the core reason of why things are happening the way they're happening. So some other things that can be, I'm sure I'll talk about this a little bit more, but some other things I wanted to mention. Overall, this week can bring lowered immune system and maybe lowered vitality, because, you know, the Sun represents our vitality, our energy, our kind of, it's the light that we all follow. So when the Sun conjoins South Node, which is the energy of the past, which is the energy of letting things go, you can expect your immune system to be less strong. So do not force yourself, do not overdo things, do not sort of put too much more pressure, let's say. Don't put more pressure on your body. Some of the negative manifestations here, right? Let's deal with the negative first, and then let's talk about the more positive manifestation. So obsessive thinking, that's very Plutonian. Pluto deals with control and power. And on the more shadow side, you can really focus on trying to control people, control outcomes, control situations, and perhaps another meme I saw on Instagram, which is where I get all my news. Kidding, but not really, but a little bit kidding. Was, you know, how like South Node really wants you to or like North Node is like ready for new beginnings and excited for independence, and South Node in Libra is making you release like relationships and people, and how difficult that could be. So yeah, like the more negative manifestation here, it could be like power struggles, trying to control other people, trying to hold on to the way things are, even though deep inside you know that you no longer can be in the dynamic as it has been established. So all of this can potentially lead to crisis, right? And a need to compromise or a need to part ways. So like parting ways, ending relationships, agreeing to disagree, and deciding that you no longer want to deal with things are definitely possible, right? You might also be seeing the Sun represents leaders and authority figures, so there might also be some kind of authority figures or people you used to put on a pedestal. You might be seeing them differently. It's like, you know, sort of crumbling authority figures. Death and rebirth sometimes comes with this transit. Like if somebody in your life is on their final, like a teacher of mine has a friend in in coma right now, or like, no, maybe not coma, but she has cancer, I think, and she's struggling. So these like authority, parents, leader type figures can be either leaving our life in a more spiritual way or in a very literal way, right? Like there might be changes in your local community where like one figure leaves, another comes in, or at your job where the boss leaves and a new one comes in. But definitely a sense of like disillusionment, dissolution, change of guard on some level. So on the positive, right? Like South Node brings lessons of the past, so you can learn from the lessons of the past. I don't see this transit as just negative and breakups and dissolutions, but it could be very much like awareness of the past, awareness of how you are still repeating the same conflicts or dealing with the same battles, and perhaps releasing control, right? On some level, like if people are, if somebody is in love with a person who's not committing, they might keep on waiting for them. They might try to convince the other person that they're worthy of their love. So this transit to me can be like, you, the other person, like this partner that is being idealized, might be seen for who they truly are, and the realization might come that this is the same as this person, like in their father's relationship, where the father was distant and unavailable, and they tried to prove something to the dad. So these like deep realizations that lead to separation, that lead to new beginnings, are highly likely here. And I think I see this as like, I see the sun as the perfect image. I see the sun as the, the dream, the wish, the ideal you have. And when it conjoins the South Node and squares Pluto especially, and Mercury's right there, right? It's like a lot of things at the same time. You are getting a chance to see things for what they are, and an invitation to transform something, to once you see things more realistically, you're either accepting them or walking away, compromising or letting go. So be kind of aware that a lot of this might be internal, a lot of this might be inner growth and self-understanding, and a need to change yourself, and a need to rethink how you present yourself. It could be a lovely time to try therapy, to journal, like I said, to talk to people who you trust, and surround yourself with love and positivity. Don't be afraid to let things go, is my message for you this week. So let's give you some insights about where these transitions might be happening, right? You can also watch my Mars in a conjunct South Node square Pluto video for more information, or the solar eclipse video for more information, but I'm gonna give like quick breakdowns of what this might be about for your sign here as well. So if you are an Aries rising, Mercury Cazimi, Mercury conjoins the Sun and the South Node in your 7th house, squares Pluto in the 10th. So here you're looking at one-on-one relationships and partnerships, and you're having insights about yourself in context of a relationship, and your partnerships in context of yourself, right? Like it's 1st and 7th houses are very active. Pluto is in your 10th house. So I think there's like, to me, this feels like deep questions of inner power and how much you have to offer, and whether relationships that are in your life right now, whether they are aligned with your beliefs and ideals and what you actually have to offer. So there might be a need to rebalance and readjust and be honest about your desires and your partner's desires, your values and their values. And if you're single, this can apply to friendships, this can apply to crushes, this can apply to parents, right? It's very kind of one-on-one dynamics, as well as 7th house represents contracts. So it could also be the time when you realize that some kind of contract in your life is outdated, whether that's a literal contract at work or it's a more spiritual agreement and you're letting some kind of partnership go. If you are a Taurus rising, Mercury conjoins the Sun and South Node in your 6th house and squares Pluto in the 9th. And this is an ideological shift. This is an inner shift that is connected to your everyday life, to your work, to your pursuits, right? Similar energy to the eclipse in a way, where you are realizing that perhaps you no longer want to fill your life with things that are exhausting or things that are unfulfilling, and you're trying to find a better flow between everything that is on your plate and perhaps opportunities to travel, opportunities to learn, opportunities to write and publish, and definitely doing some Libra balancing of the scales in terms of adding more excitement or joy or adventure in your life without, of course, sacrificing stability, but also being able to have a better agreement between those two chapters or parts of your life. If you are a Gemini rising, Mercury conjoins the Sun and South Node in your 5th house, squares Pluto in the 8th, and this is about pleasure. This is about changing relationship to joy and pleasure, and that could be a lot of different things, right? You might be realizing that what pleasure is for you is being with your child, or what it is creating content or making music, right? And the square to Pluto is very much suggesting a need to redefine dynamics and put up some boundaries potentially, and like reestablish agreements you have with other people, because perhaps there is something that you're doing that is blocking that pleasure, that is, something that has like a grasp over you. And that could be very much practical concerns like paying bills, but it could be your unwillingness to say no. So there's also, I think, like needing to rebalance your relationships with other people so that life can become more pleasant and joyful. And your friendships can be highlighted around this time too, just because of the whole like 5th, 11th opposition. If you are a Cancer rising, Mercury conjoins the Sun in the 4th house, conjoins South Node in the 4th house, squares Pluto in the 7th. So this is angular, dynamic, important questions connected to home, family, living situation. There might be insightful conversations with family members that sort of light bulb goes off and you realize how even where you live or the relationship you have with your parent, how is that affecting your romantic life, right? Like, how are you letting the past, how are you letting your parents, how are you letting your siblings influence your relationship, and perhaps needing to be more honest. I can also see this as like, South Node is always like letting something go. Like if you have, on the more negative, if you have like a grandparent who is ailing, this could be a grandparent passing away, or it could also be a sense of ideal, a sense of how you want things to be. Like maybe in an ideal world, you want your parent to live with you and your spouse, but you realize that it's not quite realistic, right? And perhaps you rent a place for your parent or something. There might be some kind of clarity about the perfect image and realization that things are not quite what they seem to be, and very much tying relationships, childhood, early origins, early conditioning to your romantic life and to your partnerships and one-on-one dynamics, and seeing what needs to be released in the house of the past in order to bring up better relationships in the present. Let me know how that resonates, Cancer risings. If you are a Leo rising, Mercury conjoins the Sun and the South Node in your 3rd house, squares Pluto in the 6th house. So a Leo rising friend around the 8th actually had an issue with her sibling. So 3rd house represents siblings and sibling-like relationships. So that could be highlighted for you at this point. There might be important conversations with siblings. There might be, maybe seeing them for who they truly are, maybe understanding that they're not impenetrable if you thought that there are these like strong figures. So, and that applies to friendships potentially, you know, that applies to family members. So there might be a sense of like understanding things and being more honest with things, right? There might be clearer communication or some kind of release of control when it comes to communication, where you're no longer trying to convince the other person of one thing, when you're no longer trying to like people please and becoming more confident in your opinions and in your power. There might also be some changes around your everyday life where you're choosing to not spend as much time traveling, let's say. Maybe you're transforming your work to work from home. Because Pluto in the 6th house definitely directs your attention towards your everyday life. And also the battles you're fighting. I think like if there is any battles in your life right now, the South Node in your 3rd house, together with the Sun, together with Mercury, could be very much a flashlight. You need to understand where you need to let go of the battle, or where you need to let go of the relationship or a toxic dynamic. If you are a Virgo rising, there's Mercury Cazimi conjunct South Node in your 2nd house and a square Pluto to the 5th. Pluto in the 5th. So Mercury Cazimi in the 2nd house is insights about the job, it's insight about money, about resources, some kind of good news, maybe opportunities to get a job, right? Or to hear from the employer at the job that you've been applying for. It can also be a sense of letting go of a job because, you know, Cazimi is news and insights, but South Node is letting things go. So I feel like you may have an sort of, even if you get the job, there might be an understanding immediately with the square to Pluto in the 5th house, how this job will take you away from your child or from your relationship or from having fun in life. So I think there is an invitation here to consider how your relationship to resources, relationship to stability, relationship to having a specific work or specific job, how is it affecting your joy in life? And 2nd house represents values, right? So Mercury Cazimi conjunct South Node could be a very clear pivot in which you realize that, okay, this used to feel important to me. Having this job, having this title, having this salary used to matter, but it no longer does. And then which changes, sort of ripple. What's the ripple effect here? Where does it transform, or where does it go in the rest of your life? Let me know how have things been for you, Virgo risings. If you are a Libra rising, there's a Mercury Cazimi in your 1st house conjunct South Node and a square to Pluto in the 4th. So you are lovely Libra risings. You're continuing the journey, I feel like I'm swallowing the ends of the words. You're continuing on the journey of self-discovery, of self-understanding. And some of it might be prompted by relationship transformations, right? With the 1st house being exactly opposite the 7th. Something in your relationship, something in your life, something in your wardrobe feels that it no longer reflects who you truly are. So the Sun Mercury Cazimi here conjunct the South Node feels like an old image of yourself is dissolving. And it could be your physical image, your body, your health. You are revisiting how you're treating yourself, what you're eating, what you're putting into your body, the podcasts you're listening to, the news you're reading, right? There might be very much like a clear sense of needing to let something go. Or it could be very much connected to the past. It could be connected to family dynamics where you need to put up better boundaries, where you need to maybe talk to your therapist about your childhood, or release the image you have of yourself so that your well-being and your relationships can improve as a result. And please let me know, if you are a Libra rising, what kind of transformations have you been experiencing? I have been experiencing a lot, and definitely past, childhood, all of that kind of stuff. Very deep. Lots of questions. So excited to get some answers with this Cazimi. But yeah, looking forward to hearing from you. If you are a Scorpio rising, you're getting Mercury Cazimi conjunct South Node in the 12th, square Pluto in the 3rd. So my thinking here is, what is lurking in your blind spot? And Mercury Cazimi can actually give you some answers. And the South Node will, of course, suggest a need to let something go, right? So lurking in the blind spot can be tendency to bite your tongue and not express your true opinion. And then that results in a health issue or some kind of, like, I'm a firm believer that things can be like psychosomatic, I think is what it's called, when like you don't express something, it pops up and it kind of causes like a health issue, like getting a sore throat when you didn't tell someone what you wanted to say, as an example. So seeing those kind of things, seeing your self-defeating tendencies and perhaps addressing those and looking for ways to release the grip on things you can't control, and instead trying to, maybe bring some like spiritual awareness, some kind of happiness into your life. There might be kind of balancing you're doing between your mental health and your physical health, between your time to rest and enjoy life. Forgive me. Between your downtime and your work time, needing to make adjustments. Another Scorpio rising shared that they spoke to one of their colleagues, and they told the colleague how their work is affecting them. And so as a result, the hope is to have a better dynamic. So any kind of self-defeating tendencies, any like people-pleasing behaviors or fears that you can address that will improve your life, communicating about something with Pluto in the 3rd house that is maybe uncomfortable but leads to better well-being is likely. Changes connected to siblings, changes connected to neighbors, and any also like self-defeating tendencies there. As well as finally, 12th house could also just bring attention to healing, to spirituality, to imaginative work that perhaps your life is missing. If you are a Sagittarius rising, there's Mercury Cazimi conjunct South Node in your 11th house and a square to Pluto in the 2nd. And here you're looking at your role in the collective, and you're having insights and revelations related to maybe friendships and relationships you have and community that you associate with. And the South Node can very much create a sense of something needs to go, something no longer fits. The square to Pluto suggests maybe that your values are separating with the community that you're a part of. And maybe also just redefining how you treat friends and how you treat friendships, and, trying to become more unafraid to tell people what you truly believe or who you truly are. Just sort of coming to this sense with Pluto in the 2nd house where you are stepping into your power and you're proclaiming that this is my worth and these are my values, and take it or leave it, right? Or let's agree to disagree, that kind of energy. So it could just be like a source of powerful conversations and relationships, and even changes in the way you see yourself in the realm of the community. If you are a Capricorn rising, Mercury conjoins the Sun and South Node in your 10th house, squares Pluto in the 1st. So my question for you is, how are you blocking yourself? Pluto is in your 1st house. What are the fears that are holding you back from reaching full potential professionally or becoming the known person you want to become, right? What needs to be either released or what needs to be honed in, right? What kind of skill needs to be worked on? Mercury Cazimi conjunct South Node could be very much a realization that the work you're doing is not fulfilling. Could also be an insight where you realize that you want to be doing more spiritual, more imaginative, more creative work. There's definitely possible frustrations around your work life where, especially if you've been pushing for something, let's say you've been reaching out to this one person, asking them for contact, and around this time you may hear from them that they're unable to give you the contact of that person for whatever reason it might be. So you may have to release something. You may have to examine your goals. You may have to look at people that you hold in high esteem self-esteem, you may have to see them for who they are, right? Transformations at work, changes of guard, bosses, leaders leaving and transforming is also highly possible here. Let me know how this resonates. If you are an Aqua rising, Mercury conjoins the Sun and South Node in your 9th house, squares Pluto in the 12th. So for Aquarius risings, I feel like this is very philosophical, very much ideological, and a lot is happening in your heads. Surprise, surprise, Aquarius rising in their heads. What? But there might be, you know, the square to Pluto in the 12th. So you're looking at your blind spot. You're becoming more aware of the fears, the passions, the doubts, and the challenges that are lurking in that place that you're not looking to. And perhaps you're becoming more honest about them, and you're getting ready to see a therapist, or you're getting ready to take a new class, or even talk about your new ideals and express them to other people. Watch out for, around this time, watch out for like ideological debates. If you're experiencing a big transformation, you don't necessarily have to like convince other people of it. Especially you don't have to convince people who are not ready to be convinced or not like willing to listen. Perhaps find ways to express your beliefs through writing about them, or blogging, or talking about them in your podcast or something. I think the Cazimi in the 9th house could be very much like changes around how you express yourself, as well as potentially, you know, looking at teachers, looking at guides, looking at gurus and people in power differently, and realizing that what you've been taught or what you've accepted to be truthful no longer feels like it. Now, if you are a Pisces rising, Mercury conjoins the Sun and South Node in your 8th house and squares Pluto in your 11th. So Pisces risings with the Cazimi and the South Node in your 8th house, you are looking at the way you share. You're looking at the way you give and take, and becoming more aware that maybe in some places you give too much versus in other places you may not give enough. So needing to readjust, needing to rebalance. And the square to Pluto, of course, connects us to friendships. This could be happening in your friendships. This could be happening in your romantic life. This could be happening in terms of following your dreams with Pluto in the 11th. Like, you know, where are you? You have this like vision of the way things are supposed to be, and you're being too rigid maybe. So this transit could be an invitation to let go of something, let go of the need to be right, let go of the need to have things your way, and even expectations around resources, around finances, around values, around contracts and agreements can be very much transforming and, you know, changing so that they're less rigid and more flexible. And yeah, let me know how this resonates in the comments below. This week is a transitional week, or rather a middle week between the two eclipses, and then next week we're getting the eclipse, the final eclipse of the season. I'm quite excited for that one. I think we are on the upward trajectory, and I will continue to keep you updated as we go. I will talk to you very soon. Bye.